Pucks are flying around the rink here at CAA Arena. The midweek practice is underway for the Belleville Senators, and boy, they are flying to start the 2024-25 campaign. Sens with points in all but one game so far this season. They put themselves in a pretty good spot in the North Division early on, sitting in third coming into the week. They are 5 points back of the division-leading Laval Rocket, and they'll have a chance to make up 4 points against that team later on this weekend. And we'll talk about all of that and more on this week's edition of the Belleville Sens podcast. Hi, everybody. David Foote, Brock Ormond here. Glad to have you back with us for another week on the Belleville Sens podcast, Season 3, Episode 8. Wherever you get your pods, don't forget to subscribe to the show, toss us a rating and a review. That would be much appreciated. On the show this week, we will recap a short week of work last week, but a productive one for the Belleville Senators as they extend their point streak to 4 games. The Providence Bruins were in town, and the Syracuse Crunch hosted the Senators on Saturday. We're also going to replay an interview from about a week ago or so, but we realized it doesn't live online anywhere, and we want to make sure that Brock and my chat with Rick Bowness from a few games back has somewhere to live, so you'll get that interview coming up on the program, and then we'll tee up that doubleheader here at CAA Arena this weekend against the North Division leading Laval Rocket. A lot to get through here this week, Brock, so let's get right into what was another productive week for the Sens. The Providence Bruins come into town. Their only visit of the season. Another game in line with basically all of the ones we've seen so far from the Sens this season. Tight checking, a little bit low scoring, great goaltending, and yet another shootout.
Yeah, another shootout and another pretty intense game. It was close again. That seems to be where the Belleville Senators have lived the last couple of seasons, is playing those tight one-goal games that really force you to push to your outer limits to get victories and get points. And sure enough, the Belleville Sens do get a single point against the Providence Bruins in a very competitive game, and they had to come back too. They were down 2-0 after the first against a Bruins team they haven't seen, I should say, since March 2022, and that's a long time, but it feels like it flies by when you're in the battle. And of course, on Wednesday night, it was quite feisty from what I saw and heard, and the battle was fierce. It was intense, and the P Bruins definitely give a good fight. And I know there's a few Bruins fans that really got a good kick out of that game as well. And it was a tough loss, but the Sens showed a lot of fight in them. And Levi Marilano was outstanding once again, and he's the type of guy that can lead a team to victory and maybe even steal a point or two. And the Sens certainly did that thanks to his play on Wednesday night. It was an outstanding game, and it was a good pre-Halloween tilt for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It was not overly scary of a night for the Belleville Sens. Again, an excellent comeback. The big thing early on had been 60 minutes, play 60 minutes, and this was a case where the start wasn't great, the finish was good, and then you get into the shootout, which is always a toss-up either way. But on Saturday night, they played a full 60 minutes from the get-go in a tough building in Syracuse, and they had their best win of the season, most decisive victory, and perhaps the best that the Sens have looked all season early on here was there in Syracuse on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a great start. The 3 goals early on really set the tone for what was to come on Saturday night with, again, the veteran guys, Cole Reinhardt, Angus Crookshank, and Nikos Montempalo all scoring. And for Montempalo, nice to get his first goal of the season out of the way, and it led to a pretty entertaining night for the Sens. Of course, Syracuse fans were pretty frustrated, especially seeing Angus Crookshank score again, because he's been a thorn in the fans and the team's side over the last couple of years, certainly. And, the fact that 6 goals was put on the board, it was a comfortable night. Sens never seemed like they were out of it. That's the kind of game that sometimes you need to play. And even I was saying it to myself watching that game. I said, boy, it would be nice if the Belleville Sens could blow a team out. Even though the game's way out of reach, 7-8-1, doesn't matter. Just blow them out and get some even more confidence than they already have, and some momentum carried into this coming weekend against Laval, which is going to be a big one for sure here in the early season. And great start again by Levy, coming off the start on Wednesday. 29 saves on the night, and one big highlight reel goal, and you'll hear it once we're going out here. Donovan Sabrango. That was I would say viral. It was picked up by the Ottawa Sens. TSN, I believe, had it. Sportsnet had it. It went viral, and it was a beautiful goal. And that certainly was the highlight of the night for the Sens, and what was pretty much a near perfect outing.
That's good intuition, because I didn't even tee Brock up that we were going to go to break with that clip, but you just knew it was coming.
Yeah, I knew it. I had a feel. I know your mindset,
That's
David.
right,
I know what you're thinking, and it was a pretty exciting call, pretty exciting goal, and overall a great game for the Sens too.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it's always fun when you beat up on teams like that, but especially a team like Syracuse, where you talk about confidence, Brock, and the only knock on Belleville's confidence this season early on came from those Syracuse crunch when they lost that home game to them here a week or so ago. So to be able to go back into that building where they lost in the shootout a few weeks back, where they had so much success last year but hadn't seen that to this point, and to go out there and win as emphatically as they did, obviously that's huge for the confidence. Let's actually get to our first bit of audio for the week. We chatted with the assistant coaches on the weekend in Syracuse. We had Stefan Legion on in the pregame, and then Andrew Campbell spoke to us in the postgame, gave us his thoughts on his club's performance and what worked so well on Saturday night in Syracuse. Here's Belleville Sens assistant coach Andrew Campbell. How did you feel about the game overall?
Really happy. All 12 forwards, all 60, and Levy, obviously. I think it was a complete team effort out there. Just really impressed with the effort that the group brought for the full 60 minutes.
Yeah, from the scoreline, it's obviously the best game of the season. But aside from the score, did you guys kind of feel that way as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Guys were making the right decisions all night, whether it be with the puck or without the puck. We were getting pucks behind them. We were sticking to the structure, and every guy was competing to a man. So it was just, like I said, a really good 60-minute effort, and impressed with the guys.
It seems maybe like silly to say, but when the passes are connecting, it seems to be really producing results, even going back to Wednesday. How important has, I guess, that connection between players been in these results of late?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you want to be clean with the puck always. So whether there's a tape-to-tape play to be made or whether you need to get it behind them and chip and chase it, it's making those right decisions in the right moments. And I thought we did a really good job of that here tonight.
What was the reaction like on the bench when Donovan Sabrango scored that goal? Because it's already making its way around social media.
A lot of smiles. That's awesome for Dodge. You know, he's a workhorse back there. He's such a great player and a great person. So to see him get rewarded with a goal, the guys were really happy on the bench. It was great.
Nicholas Montempallo scores a nice one too. The blue liners have really been impacting the offense for this team, and we've talked to Coach Bell about it. As a defenseman yourself, how do you feel about seeing the guys on the back end chip in?
Yeah, it's great to see those guys get rewarded. Like you said, Manti, he's a man back there. He plays so hard. He closes. He gives it every shift. So to see him get rewarded with a goal too was awesome.
Now you've got about a week until a couple of big games against the Laval Rocket. What will the message be through the weekend and into next weekend?
Just continue to work. You know, the guys have been great in practice, putting in the work. So we'll continue to try to get better. We have a really good Laval team coming in next weekend. There'll be two really tough games. So we'll get our work boots back on and get better.
There's Sens assistant coach Andrew Campbell. That was after the 6-2 victory over the Crunch in Syracuse on Saturday night. He talked about Nicholas Montempallo there. His goal was a beauty as well, and came from something that I had referenced in that interview, and that was just the passing that the Senators have been able to use over the last few games. I think Tim mentioned it as well back earlier in the week. But and I said it in the interview, like it's a dumb thing to say. When passes connect, it leads to offense. Like, that's pretty obvious, but sometimes you need to really see it to understand that that's the formula. Connect your passes at speed through the middle, and you're going to generate a whole bunch more chances and probably convert on a few more as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Montempallo definitely is like Andrew Campbell described. He's a true man back there. He's a rock-solid defenseman, and he can chip in on the offense. Again, he's not really known for being a purely offensive defenseman, but it certainly does help when a guy like him can pop a couple of points on the score sheet and really make a difference for his team. And he did that against Syracuse in all facets of the game, and that's the true meaning of a true leader on this team is Nicholas Montempallo. And again, especially contending with a Syracuse team that was a lot stronger in terms of the guys they had in their lineup too. They had Gabe Fortier back, they had Gage Gonzalez, they had Connor Sheary, and a former NHLer, Pittsburgh Penguins. They had Daniel Walcott back, and all those guys were really strong, and they fortified that Syracuse lineup, but it didn't really seem to matter because guys like Montreal were back there and defending well, and Sabrango and Jeremy Davies and everybody. And when you get offense from the defense like the Sens have really this whole season to this point, it certainly helps ease the forwards' minds a little bit and know that they're going to make a complete pass or they're going to put a nice low shot on goal for a tip. All those simple plays that you kind of go unnoticed in the course of a game or a season, but certainly add up over the long term. You want to look at the Belleville Sens top scorers and know exactly how big of an impact the blue line is having. Well, Jeremy Davies is third in team scoring with 6 points. Donovan Sabrango is fifth in team scoring with 5 points. Nicholas Montreal also has 5 points. Of the Senators players that are in that kind of top three, if you will, 5 points, 6 points, 8 points, 10 points. So top four, 3 of them are defensemen. And we talked about the depth in general in the organization, but scoring depth especially is so important, and the Senators certainly seem to have that. They've got a guy like Cole Reinhardt who is on an absolute heater since coming back, or even during his back and forth to and from the National Hockey League. He is leading the Senators with 10 points already. He's the second most productive player by points per game in the American Hockey League through the first 7 or 8 games, only behind Logan Mailloux, who we're going to see this weekend, and that's only because Mailloux's played one less game. The Senators are looking really good right now. Things are clicking, they're coming together, and I don't feel like it's too early in the season to start saying that all of these expectations that were set early on are already starting to be met. Now we know the goal is the goal and won't be met for months, but if you're looking at the checklist, things are trending in the right direction. Yeah, they certainly are, and it's thanks to a guy like Cole Reinhardt who had a great camp in Ottawa. Really challenged the Sens, the NHL Sens, to try and make that team, and then comes back with a boatload of confidence. And we'll definitely keep an eye on him and see if his 3-game point streak can continue. 8 points in the span of those 3 games, and he's the type of guy that can make an impact happen, even when he's not scoring, which is the key thing for a guy like him. And again, you got to be a full 200-foot player, as they say in this day and age. You can't just be one-dimensional scorer or a grinder checker or anything like that. You got to have the mindset of, you got to do everything asked of you to help your team win, and certainly Cole Reinhardt has that. 4 points on Saturday night against Syracuse, so that makes up half of the points he's accumulated over his 3-game point streak. So an incredible job by him, and Garrett Pilon, the captain, too, leading by example. 3 assists on Saturday, too, keep in mind. Only 1 goal so far, but that'll come, and again, it's still lots of time left in the season, lots of laneway to run through. This Belleville Sens team is a very confident group right now, and again, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be peaks and valleys throughout the rest of the season, but I have no doubt that with the standard, as they say, that they've set, Coach Spell, Legion, and Campbell are all going to be keeping guys honest and keeping them accountable, and nobody feels sorry for themselves when they're in a rut. Nobody feels overconfident or complacent when they're winning 5, 6, 7 games in a row. Just keep the same even-keel mindset, and eventually that's going to pay off for them come April, May, and June. And lots to happen up until then. And Senators, again, trending in the right direction, off to an excellent start here. A wonderful game in Syracuse on Saturday. Brock mentioned 4 points from Cole Reinhardt. How about 3 assists from Garrett Pilon? How about 2 goals and an assist from Angus Crookshank? A couple helpers from Jeremy Davies. Nicholas Montreal. Matt Highmore scores his first of the season. Donovan Sabrango with a goal and an assist, as we mentioned, and a really nice goal at that. And as Brock alluded to earlier, that's what we'll leave you with as we head into our next segment here on season number 3, episode 8 of the Belleville Sens podcast. It was not meaningful in terms of the lead or the scoreline, but it's a goal of the year candidate already, and it comes from Belleville Sens defenseman Donovan Sabrango as we head to break on the Belleville Sens podcast. Stay with us. Davies, top of the right circle, gets up into the middle, zips it over to Reinhardt, now down low for Sabrango, he scores! Are you kidding me? Donovan Sabrango with one of the nicest goals you might see this year, between the legs, behind the back, and into the back of the net.
And the Sens have back. Excellent pass first. Reinhardt finds Sabrango in the middle. He stops it with the back of his blade and knocks it between his legs. Unbelievable stuff from Sabrango.
Skate into the holiday season with the Stars. Stars on Ice 2024 Holiday Tour with figure skating icon Elvis Stojko, Olympic medalist Caitlin Osmond, Caitlin Weaver and Andrew Poget, Keegan Messing, Satoko Miyahara, Ilaj Balde, and more. Stars on Ice, coming to CAA Arena December 8th. Unwrap your tickets at starsonice.ca.
Back on the Belleville Sens podcast, the ice mics are plugged in today. We're doing a little bit of tech testing at CAA Arena with the homestand this weekend, and why not take you right down to ice level for practice as the guys are working below us. Dave Bell and the staff out there putting the guys through their paces as Belleville looks to continue this run of success. Points in 4 straight games for the Belleville Senators to start the season. Points in 7 of 8, which is extremely impressive. But of course, the Senators are doing really well, but so is basically everybody else in the North Division as well. Laval has won 7 in a row. They're 8-1 to start the season. Toronto finally suffering a regulation loss after the Sens beat them in the shootout. And Toronto's still 6-1-0-1 in their last 8. And when you look at those, even Syracuse, who are just behind Belleville in the standings, are 5-4-0-0 in their last 9. Basically everybody but the Utica Comets has had an excellent start to the season. And it's just the same old North Division all over again, where it's probably going to be April 15th when we figure out who finishes where in the North again, at least based on these first 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, for sure, and you can bet that teams will go on hot streaks and cool down a little bit. Like Laval, you could see them cooling down a bit after a while, but they're off to a great start. Like you said, 7 straight victories after splitting their opening weekend set with Providence and Springfield, and it's thanks to guys like Logan Mailloux coming back, Josh Wall having a great start, 7 goals already. You got Alex Barré-Boulet, a veteran guy who, if he plays one game this weekend, it's got to be one game at least this weekend, he'll get to 300 AHL games. So there's a veteran guy for you. And overall, the way that this season has gone for Laval, about as perfect as can be at this point. Pascal Vincent, the new coach for Laval, has been just outstanding, and the way that he's got that team rolling is just incredible. And it should be a very interesting meeting with the Sens this weekend, 2 games, and if Belleville can be the one to snap their winning streak, that would be just gravy. And certainly Belleville's had themselves a great start. It's going to be close, like we said. It was a close season series last year. Belleville won 6 out of 12 games, so it was basically dead even. There was 5 regulation losses and an overtime defeat, so you couldn't ask for a much closer season series, and it was Belleville that knocked Laval out of last year's Calder Cup playoffs, essentially, with 2 victories at the end of the season on the last weekend, including that incredible ending in front of a great crowd. Igor Sokolov scoring the winner, and by the way, he's off to a good start too at the Tucson Roadrunners out in Arizona.
Yeah, I believe he was last week's Howie's Hockey Player of the Week. He had 4 points, I think, in a couple of games. So congrats to Soko for that milestone. We'll dig a little bit deeper into this Belleville-Laval matchup when we continue on to segment number 3. But you mentioned good coaching in Laval, and the Belleville Senators, obviously, beneficiaries of that here. A lot of teams over the NHL, or in the NHL, I should say, have benefited from the excellent coaching of our next guest, and that is Rick Bowness, the inaugural coach of the Ottawa Senators. Most recently was coaching with the Winnipeg Jets. He's been all over the place. Vancouver, Tampa, Dallas, you name it. Phoenix, the island in Long Island. He's been all over. And a couple of weeks ago, he was here at CAA Arena. He retired recently, and of course, his son Ryan is the general manager of the Belleville Senators. And Brock and I came up to set up the game that night, and Ryan's sitting in the booth with Rick, and he goes, hey, how about we get the old man on? And we said, yeah, absolutely, we will do that. And we're privileged enough to get a few minutes with Rick Bowness, so we'll play that in a couple minutes. But it was exciting. It's always nice to get surprise guests, especially when they carry that kind of caliber and pedigree. Absolutely, and Rick was more than happy to do it, too. He's shown himself to be a good speaker in terms of hockey. He's a very smart hockey guy. He knows a lot of what he's talking about. He was on Sportsnet. He was on TNT recently as well, like you said before going on, David. And yeah, he's a guy that you just love to sit down and have a chat with about hockey for a couple hours, and it feels like it flies by in 10 minutes. Like, that interview was incredible to have, and yeah, it certainly shows the kind of life and the history that he's led in coaching, in scouting and all that. And even like we talked about during the broadcast, he was over in the other booth with Ryan, and he was scribbling down notes. He appeared to be scribbling down notes about the game at hand. So, I mean, the coaching and the scouting part of you never leaves, especially when you're around the game for as long as Rick has been. And it's so awesome to have him. And he was a character back in his day coaching. You know, he was the first head coach of the Ottawa Senators, and you'll hear that in the interview as well. Tough sledding for the Sens back in the early 90s when they first came into the NHL, but he had a lot of fun in Ottawa, and it's nice to have it kind of come full circle with his family, his son GMing here, being the assistant GM in Ottawa. It's awesome stuff. It's one of those life cycle things that you just love to appreciate, and it's so awesome to have Ryan here and to have Rick on board and chat with us. And he was very grateful, like we said, to have a chat with us. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit of family. We'll talk a little bit about his retirement and just how important is the American Hockey League to NHL head coaches. Let's find out from longtime NHL head coach Rick Bowness on the Belleville Sens podcast. Back at CAA Arena, it is the first intermission. Belleville Sens lead the Toronto Marlies 1-0. David Foote, Brock Ormond here, and glad to be joined in the booth by now retired longtime NHL coach, father of the general manager of the Belleville Senators. Rick Bowness is here. Thanks for taking some time, Rick.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate it. We love surprise guests on this show, so it's awesome to have you here. What brings you to town? Just checking things out or what?
No, we wanted to come up and spend some time with Ryan and his family. We have 2 grandkids. We're spending the winter down in Boca Raton, Florida, where we have our home. And we had a weekend. We said we got to get up and see the kids and see Ryan.
Yeah, of course.
And, of course, there's a game tonight, so I jumped in the car and came down with them. This is the first hockey rink I've been in for a long time, so it's actually good to be here and good to see a live hockey game.
Yeah, nice to get up and see him before the weather hits as well, if you're down
Exactly
in Florida,
right. Exactly right.
Have you been here before to Belleville CAA Arena? No. What do you think? It's a small barn, but pretty intimate.
It is, and it's a great crowd tonight, and they're knowledgeable and they're very enthusiastic. The game's been very fast, and they're very impressed with that. That's what I've been telling Ryan. Today they can all skate. They can. No matter what the skill level or the hockey sense is, man, they can all skate, and they're all in great shape, which makes it for a fast, entertaining game for the fans. But it's a very impressive rink. They've got a tremendous setup down in the locker room for the hockey team. The coach's office, the training facilities, the locker room itself. They've done a wonderful job remodeling that locker room. So it's a great facility, and it's a great attitude or great atmosphere in here.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a former coach, just wanted to kind of take you back. I know you're the first head coach of the Ottawa Senators, and being that your son's back here, GM of the affiliate team in the AHL, same organization, what kind of feelings does that bring back for you, given that you were one of the first people in the organization as a whole back in the early 90s?
Well, first of all, I'll give him credit because he's a lot smarter than his father. He's in management. He's a lot more secure than a coach. But no, we're very proud of Ryan and his rise in the hockey world. And listen, we had great years in Ottawa as a family. Now the coaching and the team was struggles, there's no question. That was tough, but we all really enjoyed loved living in Ottawa. It's a great place to raise a family. And what's good for Ryan is coming back to Ottawa, that he's reconnected with a lot of the kids that he went to school with and played Bantam and Junior A with, and they're all the same age, and they all have kids the same age. So off the ice, it's a wonderful setup for Ryan. I'm very happy for him. them. And the organization's in the right direction right now. They've got a lot of good young players. They've got some good young talent here, but the organization is now going in the right direction, and I'm very, very happy for them, and we're going to support them all the way through.
We're chatting with Rick Bowness for a couple more minutes here at the first intermission. You mentioned the prospects in the organization. Obviously, you coached a long time and have kind of seen how the relationship between the NHL and AHL has solidified and strengthened. From the coaching standpoint, like, how important is the American Hockey League and what the coaches are doing down here with the players?
It's crucial. Yeah. It's absolutely crucial. If you watch our league now, the National Hockey League, if you see how many injuries are coming on with the players, right? The schedule is demanding. The top end guys playing awful lot, and they get hurt. And you've got to have some players down in the farm team that are not only prospects that you can step up and put them in your lineup on a short-term basis. The coaches in the minor league and the National League, they have to be on the same page. They have to have a good rapport, and I know they do it here. But you've got to have a strong, today's NHL, with the cap and with the 23-man roster out in the National Hockey League, you have to have a strong farm team, developing players, as well as having guys ready to go up and step in quickly, as happened so far with the team, as every NHL team now. You're getting these injuries, and you're going to rely on the farm team to come in and help you out in the short term. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to have the depth, too. I know Ryan's been working hard at getting guys, not just depth in the Belleville system, but also in the ECHL. And just can you reiterate, as a former coach and, knowing management, the importance of having that kind of depth in the system?
Well, we were watching the Senators game last night, and as host, and Gaudette scored 2 goals. Now, there's an example. you don't get a guy that you're bringing. I know he signed him to play here, but there's a kid that came in and had a great training camp and made the hockey club. But that's an example of what we're talking about. You've got to go get those guys. You've got to go find them. Listen, I coached Alex Burrows in Vancouver for 7 years. Never drafted. We started in the East Coast Hockey League. He makes his way to the American League, makes his way to the National Hockey League. He was the perfect setup guy for the Twins in Vancouver for 7 years. He's now in the Ring of Honor. So you've got to have scouts. You've got to be on top of the East Coast League. You've got to be on top of this league. You've got to know what you're looking for. You've got to identify your needs, and then identify not only the right ability of the player to fit in, but the right character of what you're doing with the culture of your hockey team.
Unbelievable. Before we let you go, how's retirement treating you? You said it's the first time you've been in a rink in a while. How have you been keeping busy?
Well, listen, Judy and I have been in Florida. We bought that house a couple of years ago, getting ready for this stage of life.
Right.
As you know, we're from Nova Scotia, and that's home. So the plan is to spend 5 months in Nova Scotia, and we'll spend 7 months down in Florida. But we keep busy. We're not people that sit around the house and read books and everything. We're both very active people, and we've been keeping busy. Like all of a sudden, we're near the end of October, and we've been there 6 weeks, and it just seems like it's flown by. Yeah. So to answer your question, we're enjoying it. All
awesome.
Right? There's no pressure.
Yeah.
I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to be at the rink at 6 in the morning getting ready for practice and meetings and everything. So far it's been good. But listen, when I made the decision to step away from the coaching, I knew I would miss it very, very much, and I do. And I miss every aspect of it. But I also knew it was time.
Yeah, I always see you making notes in there. Brock was kind of saying it never seems to leave you once you retire. We really appreciate you stopping by, Rick. This is fantastic. All the best, and maybe we'll see you again soon.
You will.
All righty.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
There's Rick Bowness from a couple of weeks ago here in the booth with Brock and myself. And just to go back to the point we were making heading into that interview, the thoughts he has on the American Hockey League and just how needed the development system is for NHL clubs and how important that synergy and that cohesion between the AHL and the NHL is. We know it. We talk about it all the time, but anytime you can hear it from somebody like that, just reinforces that so much, and I think reminds us how lucky we are to have this caliber of hockey here in the Bay of Quinte region. Yeah,
certainly, absolutely. And if an former or longtime NHL coach and scout and everybody says that, then it's got to be true. And, of course, he had plenty of years dealing with the AHL, and the fact that the American League is a lot more situated to being a development league to the NHL. It always has been, but this year, this recent block of time the last probably 5-10 years or so, especially ever since Belleville came into the league, it seems, because before it was, the AHL had some prospects, but they had also had a lot of veteran guys, and they didn't have a veteran rule back when he was first starting to coach, which was much different than it is now, where you can only put in so many guys that are over the age of 26. So having the AHL as a true developmental league for the NHL, where prospects get the time, they get the vets get the time as well, but the prospects are the ones that you have to kind of brew them, you groom them, or you build them up to be an NHL player, and those are the guys that see the ice time, they see the development time, and they're the ones that everybody has to keep an eye on. And the veteran guys here are just there to lead them along, which is absolutely crucial, and it's so great to have Rick Bowness there to talk about that, and an awesome interview, and just a real neat guy to talk to about hockey and anything else, and we hope that all the success in the world for him and Ryan as well. Ryan has been great here, and I hope to one day see Ryan make the move to the NHL, perhaps as a full-time GM, but he's doing a great job here for Belleville.
Yeah, he certainly is, and in his role as associate GM with Ottawa.
That's right.
For sure. Thanks again to Rick. Thanks to Ryan for setting that up for us. And thanks to you for hanging on with us. So we're not done yet. I know it sounds like it. We'll head to break. When we come back, we will dive into Belleville versus Laval. The first 2 games of the 10-game season series are coming up this weekend. So that's coming up on this episode of the Belleville Sens podcast.
The Belleville Senators season is in full tilt, and your group can get closer to the action. No, closer. Get your Belleville Senators group package now and score top shelf ticket discounts with a group of 10 or more. All you have to do is choose your package. Options include the Benchwarmer Experience, Sin Bin Experience, High Five Hallway, and Player Meet and Greets. Get closer with the Belleville Senators. Explore group experiences online. BellevilleSens.com.
To our final segment of episode 8 of season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote, Brock Ormond here. Practice winding down. Guys are around the center circle. Head coach Dave Bell is giving his final instructions likely for the day. And probably Brock outlining how important the games this weekend will be against the Laval Rocket. The first 2 meetings of 10 between the Sens and their rivals from Laval, Providence. Brock kind of alluded to a little bit of the history, or the recent history at least, between these teams. Really tight season series last year. Turns into a fraction of a deficit in points between the teams, and Belleville does what it needs to do at the end of the season to eliminate Laval and secure home ice advantage, and then go on to knock off the Toronto Marlies as well. And great to see that success against the Rocket. It hasn't always been like that for the Senators, especially in Laval. That's another building that's been incredibly tough over the years. Maybe not so much again recently, as the Sens have figured things out over there in Quebec a little bit. But massive games this weekend. We've got a couple promos as well. Military Appreciation Night on Friday, where we'll pay tribute to the men and women and the veterans of the Canadian Armed Forces. And then on Saturday, it's Loyalist College Student and Alumni Night. A night that both Brock and I would take part in as Loyalist College alumni. We hope there's a lot of Loyalist Lancer alumni here in the building on Saturday as well. You can head to BellevilleSens.com to check out the ticket packages that are available, or you can head to Ticketmaster.ca and buy your single game tickets right now. It's that easy. These are massive games, Brock, and there's been a fair amount of turnover for both teams. But it's some of the familiar names for the Laval Rocket that are still there that are really carrying the load. One of them being Joshua Waugh, who spent some time in the NHL last year as well. Maybe more time than he did in the AHL, because I don't remember Belleville seeing him too much last year. But he's an excellent player for the Rocket, and just one of many who have been off to good starts so far.
Yeah, Waugh's got 7 goals, I mentioned earlier, and 10 points to lead the club And he had a lot. That's carrying over from his scoring exploits in the QMJHL. He had a great rookie campaign last year with 32 points and was named Rookie of the Month, in fact, for October, and was leading all AHL first-year players in points at one point before he started to slow down a little bit. But yeah, he's a key player to the group as well. Mentioned Logan Mailloux, Barre Boulay, another one of those guys that can be leaned on as veteran presence. Vincent Arsenault, Xavier Simoneau, Will Trudeau on the back end. Long list of players that can really make true impact for the Laval Rocket. A lot of guys still hanging around from last year too, so the Sens will not have too much, I would imagine, of a feeling out process or getting the feet wet or anything like that. They'll go right back into it. Those veteran guys from the Sens will know what it takes for the Rocket to try and beat them, and the Rocket play with a lot of speed. They got a lot of physicality in the back end, much like Belleville does, and goaltending is going to be the crucial part of it. We'll kind of allude to the stats as well. Jakub Dobesh and Connor Hughes, two of the best goaltenders stats-wise in the AHL so far this year, and again, it goes to show what good defense will do as well. But Hughes and Dobesh, and also a pretty capable third guy in Luke Kavelin as well from the ECHL, former Toronto Marley. They're going to be tough to beat. But again, Belleville's got great netminders too, and Levi Merolainen and Malcolm Subban. And this weekend also will be key to see if Malcolm gets into a game for the first time as a Belleville Sender, play on home ice again with the two games back-to-back.
Yeah, I figure I was really hoping Malcolm might get in on Saturday in Syracuse because I'm not here this weekend. And
yeah.
Selfishly, I wanted to be around for Malcolm's first game here because I think, all signs would point towards a split of the goaltenders this weekend. We don't know that for sure, and Levy's already started on back-to-back days before, right. So who knows if he's feeling good, they might run with him. But I would surmise that you split the goaltenders this weekend with a couple of tough matchups. You talked about the blue line for Laval, and Mailloux obviously chipping in offensively. Will Trudeau we've seen for a few years. Josh Jacobs a little bit as well. But they added Tyler Wotherspoon from Utica, and they also got Adam Ekstrom, the big rookie blue liner as well. He's a monster. So add those guys in, put Philippe Méchard back for a full season in the AHL. Luke Tuck is there from college now. And then, of course, Owen Beck has scored twice, the Quinny Red Devil product. Both his goals game winners for the Laval Rocket. So they are going to be a formidable opponent, to say the least. But again, this is not to say that the Senators are an underdog in any sense of the word. Belleville competes with everybody. They have competed with everybody, and they will compete again with another tough team. They'll just rise to that level.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you have to do. In the course of a season, you're going to face some difficult opponents, and this point in time early on is as good of a test as any against an 8-1 team, one of a couple teams ahead of you in the standings. Points-wise is going to be crucial to try and keep banking those early on because they do add up, and they do give you a little bit of a boost and a buffer going into the later stages of the year, like later stages of this year and then into to the back half of the season as well. So it's a tough opponent, but again, every opponent's tough, and anybody can beat anybody in the AHL on any given night. You never can fully confirm one way or the other how things are going to go. Even Utica Comets team that went 0-8 to start the year, even they made Belleville sweat a little bit at the end of that home opener back on the 19th of October. So you cannot ever discount an opponent, and especially not a team that's leading the division right now at 8-1. But Belleville would love to, nothing more than to pick up at least a couple of points, at least 1 point, but preferably, obviously, they want to win both and snap Laval's winning streak and get them on a slide. But it'd be interesting to see how it shakes down between them because Laval Rocket are a team with a lot of high-powered offensive guns and, like you say, a local guy, too, local product in Owen Beck. It'll be good to watch for. I imagine he'll have a lot of support with family and friends coming from Port Hope.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty of Rocket fans in the building. We want plenty of Belleville Sens fans in the building as well, and you can be in the building on Friday night or Saturday. Again, it is Military Appreciation Night on Friday, so be in your seats early for our special pregame ceremony. Again, we'll honor the men and women that currently serve and that have served in the Canadian Armed Forces. Saturday night, we'll recognize our partnership with Loyalist College and hopefully fill the building with a bunch of Loyalist students and alumni to celebrate that great partnership and what an institution Loyalist is in our great community. And outside of that, a couple of really good hockey games on tap as well. And I think Belleville, at minimum, will come out with a split this weekend. But, boy, wouldn't that be something if they could pick up 2 wins here against Laval on home ice and shrink that gap between them and the Rocket to just 1 point heading into the middle of November.
Absolutely, and those will be 2 real confidence-boosting wins early on in the season for Belleville, and it certainly doesn't hurt to get off to good starts. And the way that Belleville's played this season, I have no doubt in my mind they can really push Laval and make it tough. And I imagine you'll probably see it be 1-goal games, 3-2, 2-1, 4-3, that type of thing, or a 1-goal game with an empty net or something like that. Don't be surprised at all to see that happen, because these 2 teams have played tight games before. They played a lot of them, in fact, and last season especially was one of the closest season series I think I can recall in the 8 seasons that the Belleville Sens have now been here. This is a great rivalry. We encourage people to come out. It should be an outstanding pair of games, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody from the military to Loyalists to diehards to new fans to everybody that can come out should come out. It should be an outstanding weekend.
And we could see Wyatt Bongiovanni back in action this weekend as well. He is skating, and as of last week was getting close. So something else to watch out for. If you are looking to get tickets for this weekend, box office is open on November 7th from 2 to 7 p.m. and on November 8th and 9th from noon to 7:30 p.m. Otherwise, Ticketmaster.ca or check out the ticket offers at BellevilleSens.com. Thanks again to both assistant coaches on Saturday for their time, Stefan Legion, Andrew Campbell, who you heard from here on this episode of the program. Thanks again to Rick Bowness for stopping in, and thanks to you for listening to episode number 8 of Season 3 of the Belleville Sens podcast. We'll be back next week, and we'll see what kind of fun stuff we can cook up for you as the Sens next week will make their first trip to the Big Barn in Toronto. And then in 2 weeks, it's the first big road trip. But let's get through these games against Laval this weekend first, and we will do that and talk to you next week on the Belleville Sens podcast.